Is work getting worse? I'm kind of curious about this.
This episode is brought to you by Nebula. Stay tuned for an exciting announcement at the end of the video. Work is getting worse. I know that might sound strange. We're very attached to the idea that things just keep getting better for every new generation. Like how before, there weren't any iPads, but now, we all have iPads.
Yep.
Fruit Ninja. Sadly, that steady march of progress narrative doesn't really hold up. Of course, a lot of things are better now than a few generations ago, don't get me wrong. However, the unfortunate reality is that there's a disturbing trend with work today. New jobs are declining in quality across a lot of different and incredibly important metrics.
Okay, let's see it. I think this is probably true, by the way. I mean, everybody's seen like these productivity graphs, and then you see like wage stagnation graphs. Yeah, this is probably. I think this is probably true.
Probably already know that. Odds are your job sucks. But it's often hard to take that personal experience and put it in the context of a whole economy. Because whatever you're picturing, however horrible you're imagining the general state of work being, I guarantee what I'm about to talk about is a lot worse. There's a lot of different ways to measure job quality, but the most obvious one is money. Jobs don't pay as much anymore. For starters, pay has not kept up with productivity.
There's the fucking graph.
We produce far more goods and services per hour than we used to, and up to the 70s...
And by the way, this graph, bro, like, it's right here. This shit's about to go to here, and this shit's about to go to here. Because the moment that they can automate some of these processes and make one person automating a process do the work of 5 people... I mean, just you think that one guy who's automating it, you think they're just gonna pay him 5 times as much? Maybe he'll get like, you know, a $10,000 a year raise.
This increase in productivity tracked almost perfectly with an increase in hourly pay. More productivity equaled more money in the pockets of workers. Since then, however, productivity has gone up every year by around 75% between then and now. But hourly wages have only risen a tiny 9%. So, where's the money gone? Unsurprisingly, most of the profit generated from that increase in productivity hasn't gone to workers.
Who could have possibly expected that? Wow, I'm sure there's like probably one person in chat that's a surprise to.
It's been captured by the 1%, whose wages have fully gone up an insane 138%.
Yep.
That's kind of abstract. Let me put it in more concrete terms. This inequality has cost what most Americans consider middle-class families $18,000 a year.
Oh, that sucks. Damn. And I mean, by the way, this is in 2007. So, like, I mean, that was a while ago. It's like 15 years ago, something like that. And, you know, realistically, it's probably even worse now.
76K instead of 94. But you're clever. You look at the graphs and you see that even though inequality is some of the worst it's ever been, the line at the bottom is still going up, even if just barely. But does that mean wages are rising? Not really. For the bottom 50% of the population, in other words, the average American, pre-tax, pre-benefits income has actually gone down by over 6% since 1980. And that's before you factor in the cost of living. That means things like inflation, which we'll get into later, but it also just means what kinds of expenses people are now responsible for that they didn't used to be.
Oh yeah, you got the internet now, you've got, you know, a phone, a cell phone. You're kind of expected to have a smartphone. Most people, how many of you guys use a smartphone for your job? There's a lot more of expenses that happen nowadays.
For example, since the 80s, employers have cut down on healthcare benefits.
Yeah, there you go.
They've also made job training increasingly an individual responsibility. Student loan debt has only gotten bigger, the cost of not getting a college degree has only grown, and yet the benefits of having...
I've heard that's not true, is that people that have you know, a fucking, like it's not that they have only a high school graduate degree, it's just people without college degrees can make more money in trades. I've heard that. but with only a high school diploma and like no certification, no trade school training, yeah, I could see this for sure.
Are only going down. And this isn't just in education. People are needing to take on a lot more debt for just about everything. And I do mean need. Prices on essential goods way outpace wages year after year. So just to get by, credit has become an essential part of a home budget.
Yeah, it's crazy. I made a tweet about this. I said, inflation's got my $2 steaks costing $3. And people make a joke about that, haha, funny. But that's fucking 50% more goddamn money. Let's say you gotta buy 5 steaks a day because you got you got a wife and 4 fucking kids. That's like $5 every fucking day. People complain about a sub to WoW, it's $15 a month. Think about that. And that's only one thing. It's not like everything else is cheaper. Yeah, it's crazy. You make steak for 4 kids, bro. Well, you see what I'm saying, right? I mean, you're gonna make something else for them. It's just an example. The idea is that prices everywhere have gone up, and it's crazy to me to go to the grocery store. Like, do I have a receipt near me? Let's see if I can look and see how much shit is over here. I remember I went to California. Gas was $7, and it wasn't $7 and like 3 cents. It was $7 and like 63 cents. Holy shit. That is crazy, man. Absolutely nuts.
This is part of a larger trend within neoliberalism, where responsibility and cost for all sorts of things, like job training, healthcare, and retirement, are shifting increasingly onto the shoulders of individuals who are making less and therefore need to resort to debt to get by.
I don't necessarily think that you have to blame a worldview to this. I think that the real reason why this is happening is that it's beneficial for people that have a lot of money for it to happen. Like, you think about it, if you're Walmart, wouldn't it be easier for you if you didn't have to pay the employees to get trained and they could just get trained on their own? It sounds like you save money. I mean, fuck, that could probably the guy who ever thought of that fucking idea. He doesn't have to worry about inflation for the rest of his fucking life.
Today, the average American has 90 grand worth of debt hanging over their head, and debt as a percentage of income has only gone up since the 50s.
Jesus.
All this has another effect on work.
I know plenty of friends of mine that have like massive credit card debt. My mom had over $100,000 in credit card debt. And I remember she used to get so stressed out about it, so worried about it. And I was like, man, just don't worry about it. It'll be fine. And she's like, well, what if they come and get me? I'm like, they're not going to get you. Don't worry. What are they going to do? And you know what? You know what they did? Nothing. She got away with it. Fuck them. The thing is, like, a lot of these credit cards and shit like this, they're predatory. So it's like, this is always the way. I mean, I've said this before, right? Is that you got to exist, you got to go out and go to bat for yourself. And, you know, if you got to do things that maybe you shouldn't do, or maybe things that aren't ethical or whatever, you know, don't go and tell yourself that you're Robin Hood for it. But at the same time, you got to do what you got to do. Isn't that debt yours now? No. No, that's not how it works. They give loans to people they know who can't pay it back, then collect it from insurance. Well, they not all, no, so it's even better than that. So they give loans to people that they know that they won't be able to pay it. Then they collect the money back from the insurance. Then they sell the debt to a third-party agency, and then they write the debt off their taxes. It's like the worse your decision is, the more money you make. It's crazy.
Do we work for less on average? We also work longer. Year over year, working hours in the US have actually remained relatively stagnant. But because wages have gone down in practical terms and personal expenses have gone up.
Bro, 1870, holy shit. God damn. I guess they had to fucking fix shit after the Civil War.
With the gutting of social services and costs borne by employers, we spend more of our lives at work. Over the past 30 years, the average age of retirement has gone up from 62 to 65. And last fall, Republicans actually started floating a plan to push retirement even later by delaying when people can receive full Social Security benefits and Medicare.
That's right.
I actually
That's
covered
right.
this
You got to keep the old people working. Thank God.
topic about a year ago.
We live longer. My understanding is that how long people live flatlined like 30 or 40 years ago. Like, are people really living that much longer than they were 30 years ago? I don't know. Yeah, I feel like, unless you exercise, yeah, it's still going up. Yeah, but like, when it goes up by 1 year, like every 10 years, something like that. No, I don't know.
These kinds of policies actively target poorer Americans who rely on Social Security and are way more likely to die before reaching retirement age than their wealthier counterparts.
Right, that's the smart thing, is that you don't give them the money until they get older, and then by the time they get older, they're dead, so you don't have to give them the money. Problem solved.
Just so you get an idea of how prevalent this trend is, the same thing just happened in France as we were putting this video together. The country is on fire because, despite disapproval from the overwhelming majority of French people, the neoliberal President Macron raised the retirement age by going around the parliament. Like the Republicans did in the fall with their plan to make Americans work longer, Macron cited budget concerns and the upcoming insolvency of these retirement funds. But make no mistake, the reason
it seems so crazy to me that, like in the U.S., for example, we spend how much on bombs? But, like, we have to raise Social Security? Like, why not just make less bombs? I mean, I don't know. That sounds like a better idea to me. What is this?
Retirement funds are going to be insolvent isn't because people aren't working hard enough, but because the wealth that they produce isn't going in their pockets or into funding these necessities.
No.
It's going to billionaires. But let's get back on track. None of these trends are helped, by the way, by another aspect of job quality that keeps declining: security. More and more people are being brought into more precarious work on an intermittent, irregular, or contractual basis.
This is happening, like, I think a lot of this happens on the internet where, like, there's like gig working, right? Where you have a job for 3 months, then the job's over, you've got to find a new job. I think there's positives and negatives to that, but I think that even in traditional jobs, it seems like, well, nowadays that this is not true. But, like, I would say before COVID, it definitely was, that if you had a job, you had to be thankful for that job. You could get fucking fired whenever, and you best be fucking happy that you've got it.
The new name for it is quiet hiring. But for years now, companies like Uber and their gig economy clones...
I wish I had a job where all I did was come up with stupid fucking terms like that. And it's obvious, like, what is quiet hiring? Let me guess what this is. This is hiring somebody to replace you, but you don't know that's their function. Am I about right with this? Let's see. Yeah. There you go.
Have been selling it as flexibility. Jobs are less secure today than in the past. You're more easily fired. Protections for workers are less well enforced under contractor status. Unionization is either impossible or downright illegal. And neither pay nor benefits are nearly as good, with the latter rarely ever being provided. And it's not restricted to just 1 or 2 sectors of the economy. These jobs are everywhere. 53% of people between 18 and 34 and who work in the gig economy do so as their primary income source.
Oh, yeah.
And according to a Princeton study, 94% of the net employment growth in the US between 2005 and 2015 has been in, quote, alternative work arrangements, meaning
that's called OnlyFans.
Independent contractors, temp work, and freelancing are basically the only new jobs our economy is producing. The consequences are bleak. Unreliable work comes with a lot of insecurity. We know that capitalism regularly spirals into recession, around every 5 years at this point. So, with the likelihood of a recession in 2023 seemingly really high, 80% of US workers, according to one study, is worried about losing their job.
See, this is smart. Now that there's a recession, now the company, because for a while there, you had all these people that weren't showing up to their job. Nobody's showing up to their job. Well, you know, once everybody gets fired, you can't make any money, you can't eat, then you're going to have to show up. Problem solved. And then by the time you come back, Flippy's there, he took your job, and he doesn't give a fuck about a union. He works every day. He never shows up to work high.
Regardless of the exact number today, this kind of anxiety about job security under neoliberal capitalism is always widespread.
Yeah.
And it's another variable that makes work worse and makes wages stagnate. Workers are constantly worried about keeping their job, so they exercise wage restraint. They don't ask for a pay raise despite needing it because they're worried it could get them fired.
Exactly.
This isn't helped by the fact that neoliberal politicians actively promote this wage restraint behavior by lying to people about the relationship between wages and inflation. In case you're wondering, by the way, wages and inflation aren't related. The wage price spiral is BS. You can get a raise without making inflation worse. Here's a study.
Well, of course that's fucking true. Like, anybody would know that. It's like people always use this dumb fucking argument with restaurants. They said, well, I mean, you know, if we didn't pay the workers, we didn't pay the waiters $2 an hour, everything in the restaurant would be so fucking expensive, nobody'd be able to eat there. And it's like, well, we are so lucky that we live in America, the only country with restaurants. Wow. Isn't that a surprise? That's crazy, isn't it? Oh my God, so lucky. Yeah, nowhere else has this. That is crazy.
On that. I think I forgot to print that one. Okay, here we go. Proof is on the bottom of page 5, top of page 6. We got too many printouts here. Let's move on.
Who gives a fuck?
Look,
All right.
if that wasn't enough,
Hey, yo,
kids
fuck
aren't
the
being
facts.
spared from declining job quality either. Child labor laws are starting to come down all across the country. According to
of course, right? Because now you can get the kids to work for you in Minecraft or in Roblox. So it's like, you know, the kids yearn for the coal mines. It's just the mines are in Roblox now instead of Wisconsin.
the Economic Policy Institute, 10 states are introducing or have already passed legislation weakening child labor laws.
There it is.
Despite the fact that violations of child labor protections are actually on the rise. Saying it like that is a little vague. Let me read you some details off the list of these bills.
Okay.
In Arkansas, a bill was passed that eliminates age verification and parent-guardian permission requirements. In Iowa and Minnesota, bills were introduced to lift restrictions on hazardous work. And in
Yeah, that's smart because the kids are stupid. And so they would work a job that could get them hurt, but an older person might not be that stupid. So what's the solution? Well, let kids do it so that way you can get the job done. Problem solved.
in all these states, bills were introduced
That's how it
or
is.
enacted that extended
children
working
yearn
hours
for the
for
mines,
minors.
yep.
And I know that right now you're probably thinking of kids in their late teens working the register or in fast food kitchens. Jobs that are grueling but often get depicted as easy. Those aren't
Well,
the
I'm gonna
only
be real. Like, I think like working in fast food is like the hardest job, man. Like, I've never seen somebody work so like, look at Gordon Ramsay. Bro, this guy has like more fucking lines on his face than a Navy SEAL. Like, and the thing is, like, working in a kitchen like that, holy shit. You're up all the time. You're dealing with fucking bullshit customers constantly. People arguing with you, fighting with you. It's hot. It's stressful. You sit down, somebody's up fucking complaining. It's nuts, man. I would never want to work in food service. I did for about a week, and it was awful.
jobs kids are doing right now, and they're a lot younger than what you're picturing. For example, in their report, the EPI mentions violations happening in meatpacking facilities, where over 100 kids between 13 and 17 are working illegal overnight shifts.
My dad was one of those kids. He worked at a slaughterhouse whenever he was a kid. Yep, there it is.
Handling dangerous chemicals, and quote, cleaning razor-sharp saws and other high-risk equipment on slaughterhouse kill floors.
Yep, he said people cut their fingers off, they wouldn't even know it because the knives would be so sharp.
It's giving the 21st century a real cool retro 1900s vibe.
Yeah.
But it gets even worse in agriculture, where 33 kids are injured every day in the US because so long as they have parental authorization, 14-year-olds get to use machetes and work with dangerous pesticides for unlimited hours with barely any sort of safety regulations in place.
And you think that, like, this is not going to be a problem, but here's how it becomes a problem, is that whenever they have these pesticides, and this causes lifelong issues because they're not fully, their body, their physiology isn't fully developed, 30 years later, we're going to have to pay for medical care for these people because they're fucked up. So it's, again, like, it's not a good idea.
Oftentimes, by the way, making less than minimum wage. How fun is that? Speaking of demanding work, let's turn back to France for a second, because they actually measure the intensification of work over there.
Okay.
Back in the 80s, around 12% of French salaried workers had a physically strenuous job. Now, 40 years later, with all the developments we've made in automation that should make work easier, that number's gone up to 34%. And it's not
because you make one person do 5 jobs. That's what it is. It's that simple. Like, this is the same. My dad, after he retired, he retired from the IRS. He's like, oh, maybe I might work at Home Depot just to, like, get out of the house. And then he went there and he talked to some people that worked at Home Depot, and he said that the Home Depot's got them doing. They've got these workers doing inventory, and there used to be people that did inventory at Home Depot, but they fired all the people that did the inventory, and now the guys that are supposed to walk around and tell people where the fucking chainsaws are, well, they're also doing inventory at the same time. Problem solved.
Just physical strain. Over the same time period, the number of salaried workers with a mentally strenuous job went up from 6 to 35%.
Oh my God.
If we can assume that these numbers are relatively generalizable to a similarly developed country like the US, more Americans, contrary to the popular narrative, have
By the way, I think it will be a good thing in the long run that this is happening, because I don't think that these companies are going to give any ground. I don't think the solution to this is pay people more money. It is in the short run, but in the long run, the solution to this is you have to have universal basic income, because automation is going to replace 90% of these fucking jobs in 30 years anyway. You build the infrastructure for it now so it doesn't create a society collapse in 20 years. Now, it might be sooner than that. It certainly seems like it's sooner than that. They won't do UBI. I think that people will have a very different outlook on it once enough of their jobs are removed from the economy. You'd be surprised at how fast the cultural conversation shifts once people are actually affected by it on a daily basis.
Not easier jobs.
Slavery's coming back.
By and large,
in a big
the
way.
increase in productivity, the leaner operations, and the more efficient pace of work that came with advanced technology mean a lot more intensive a turnaround for workers today than at any other point in history.
Yeah.
But let's give up the national lens for a second. A lot of the idea that work keeps improving probably comes from the fact that the US has moved from a manufacturing and manual labor economy to a service economy.
Yeah.
Jobs that are widely and unfairly considered easy. But let's, for the sake of argument, say they are easier.
Okay.
Just because Americans aren't in factories as much as before.
So this is the problem, is that there's a lot of dumb fucking people out there. There's people like, 100 IQ is the average. So half of the people are below 100. And there's a good double-digit percentage that's below 90. Well, what, are all those people not going to have jobs? Well, they're not going to like that. Fuck. If you tell them you can't have a job now, and you're gonna basically be a fucking slave, what's the surprise whenever they go and burn down the store? I mean, you're fucking, you've been removed from your dignity, from your, the ability to pursue your own happiness. And it's just because you're not that smart. That's it. That's life. Not everybody's going to, make the cut. And if you don't there's going to be people that don't make the cut. And if the people that don't make the fucking cut, there's enough of them, there's going to be some fucking problems, man.
Doesn't mean those jobs have disappeared. Work hasn't gotten better. All that's happened.
Somebody says IQ doesn't measure shit. So I don't have a lot of examples to disprove what you're saying other than common sense. But one example that I can use is that if your IQ is below a certain level, the U.S. military will not add you into the military because any job that you can do, basically, they masked it out, and on average, you will cost them more money than you will make them. So, yeah. There are a number of that's one example. I don't have a lot of other ones. I think that there are very few times that IQ is measured in a specific way. At the extremes, IQ does work. Yeah, of course.
Happened is that these factory jobs have been thrown onto other people's backs who just happen to live in other countries. We didn't transition to a service economy by eliminating factory labor, but by having wealthy countries force open foreign markets to American and European capital so that they could be the ones to take on this burden. Because when companies move their manufacturing overseas, it's usually to take advantage of lower wages and less stringent safety requirements. Once again, worsening job quality.
Yeah, of course. What do you think they go over to Malaysia? Because they want to help them out? No, they want to get Happy Meal toys for a penny. What the hell do you think? Idiot. Yeah, I mean, it's that simple. IQ is not automatically equal. Bro, people always get involved with their, they always get involved with these IQ conversations. Look, most jobs that will be replaced, I think, a lot of them at least, are going to be jobs that do not require abstract thought. I think that this is just generally the case. This has always been the case. It's been the case ever up until now, at least, is that jobs that don't require a lot of abstract thought are the ones that are more easily replaced because you can distill that process down to something that's more one-dimensional. And IQ is a tool that measures many things, one of which is the capacity for abstract thought. Why are we pretending like, on average, a person with 130 IQ is going to have the same job possibilities as a person with 90 or 75 IQ? What are we doing here? Everybody knows this isn't true. I don't care about the exceptions. You're talking about affecting millions of people. Millions of people are not going to be the exceptions. It's real life. Yeah, it's a gear score in real life. Yeah, exactly.
What most of these trends find in common is the shift in the balance of power away from workers and towards capitalists, the owners of businesses. The more power capitalists have, the more they're able to extract profit from workers by any means.
That's right.
Hence, jobs get worse.
Yep.
As evidence of this shift, just look at unionization trends.
By the way, this isn't just capitalists. I am definitely a capitalism enjoyer. Let me tell you that the kings back in the day, it's the same system. I believe that it doesn't matter what system you use, greed finds a way.
Since around the 60s, unionization has gone way down, and in perfect mirror image, the share of income held by the top 10% has gone up.
Yeah.
But this growth of capitalist power isn't limited to unionization. Capitalists in the neoliberal era have helped to elect politicians that weaken workers in every imaginable way.
Thank God.
Politicians that strip away social safety nets, like Reagan and Clinton, that weaken bargaining power and defund the NLRB, like Trump, that force open foreign countries' borders to American companies, like what's happened in East Asia and Latin America. All of these things contribute to creating a more vulnerable, less powerful workforce that can be taken advantage of more easily. that is more likely to be
exactly, and they don't have the social programs, so they have no bargaining power. It's not like they can just leave their job and live off the government. They have to eat shit.
employed or underemployed, that year after year has to contend with more and more obstacles to living a comfortable life. Through these combined efforts, capitalists are able to wield more power in negotiations with workers, push wages down, strip their access to healthcare, union bust indiscriminately, and personally accumulate wealth at levels we haven't seen in all of human history.
Well, it's also that people don't, like, what we're seeing here in like the society now is we're not really seeing a free market. What we're seeing is that one of the worst things if you are trying to make money is a free market. A free market is so bad for profit because that means that people can come in and undercut you. Like, for example, back in the day, I used to play WoW. I played WoW a lot. I still do. Every single time a new guild would kill Mythic Garrosh, I would message the guild master or the raid leader. I'd say, congratulations. You killed the boss. We're selling the mount for 800,000 gold. We were hoping that you could also sell it for 800,000 gold. That sound good? Great. All right, that'll be good for both of us. And that was it. And the mount was 800,000 gold. And its price fixing is so good. It's like the reason why price fixing is against the law in real life is because it works. Do you think they wouldn't make it against the law if it didn't work? No, it works. And also, like, it's illegal. Well, number one, whenever you are a billionaire, you don't really have to follow the law most of the time. And whenever you do, you make $7 billion in profit and you get a $100 million fine. Oh, wow. Justice is served. What a surprise.
And none of this is to romanticize the 50s or some bygone era, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Those were not good times for anyone not like this. Trying to turn back the clock isn't going to solve any of these problems.
No.
The seeds of declining job quality were already there back then. You
like
recreate
what he's saying is, like, if you're black or something's fucking like some other like race or whatever, something's different with you, it's bad. Like, I think obviously when people romanticize the 50s, they're not saying let's bring back segregation. I think that you can disconnect these two ideas, or at least a person with, again, an IQ over 75 can probably do that. However, there's a lot of people that are below that and they're very loud on the internet.
New Deal social democracy in the US today, and within a couple of years, it'll melt back into neoliberalism because it isn't a solution that takes away capitalist power, nor their need to make profits at all costs. The balance of power of the 50s was nothing more than a temporary compromise that only held while capitalists were satisfied. Bottom line is, we're not going to find a solution in some mythologized past. It's only going to be when people have actual collective autonomy to make economic decisions and aren't forced to generate profits for a small group of wealthy businessmen that work can actually and durably improve. If you only take one...
The problem with people having their own ability to generate profit is that most people, I don't think, would do that. Yeah, that's just not what happens. And then every time that the people... Here's the thing. Every time the people rise up, what do the wealthy people do? Well, they pay half of the poor people to kill the other half of the poor people. Problem solved. And, you know, it repeats itself and that's it. And the thing is, what's so crazy is it just keeps working. It's not like people ever figure this one out. They just keeps happening over and over and over.
Thing away from this video, let it be this. Your job will never truly improve under capitalism. So long as the profit motive is the...
I don't like that outlook. I think that's wrong. I think that you should still try to improve your job. To say that, I think, is silly. Truth is that there's a lot of people who have improved their job under capitalism. How many of you guys have improved your job in the last 5 years? I'm sure there's some of you. So you can't really make a sweeping statement as if this isn't the case. And I think also a lot of times people have the outlook that because things are stacked against them or because things are unfair, that they can never get out from under them. Well, guess what? You still can, even if it's harder. And if you don't want to, yep, it sucks and there's things holding you back. But at the end of the day, your own happiness, your own success is up to you. Nobody else gives a shit about it. So if you're not going to take accountability for it and solve your own problems, nobody else is going to do it either.
Guiding principle of every...
Yeah, I think this is a very good... Yeah, he's probably looking at it from a macro scale, not micro scale. Yes, like his macro analysis, I would say, is probably accurate. And I think that it's even that is inaccurate because I think it'll keep getting worse. But on a micro level, on an individual level, I don't think this is true. I don't like the defeatism of it whenever people personalize this advice. I think that's a much better way to say it, yeah.
Business. Safety, working conditions, and basic human dignity will always be an afterthought. If we want to get to a place where we can take pride in our work, enjoy a good work-life balance, and use new technology for the benefit of all workers, capitalism needs to go.
Is this capitalism being bad? I don't think this is gonna. I don't think that's gonna solve it. I think that if they get rid of capitalism and they use something else, it'll just be the same thing. I think also, like, whenever you say capitalism, it's people think capitalism is one thing. People think that it's free market. I think that, whenever you say capitalism, people might look at the current state of affairs in the U.S., but I think that there's a lot of arguments of why that's not really capitalism, I mean, fuck, we have Social Security. We have a million different things that aren't capitalist. So I don't think that it's really a solution of ditching capitalism or only having socialism. I think it's about stop attaching yourself to labels and look at what works.
I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that I had an exciting announcement.
Okay.
As of today, both the Deprogram and First Thought will be available on Nebula. I've gotten a lot of requests to host them both on the platform, so I hope you're excited to see them added to the roster. If you'd like to help support...
I think that, again, if you want to make an argument against capitalism, I feel like, is life better in China for people? I don't think it is. I think life is probably pretty bad for a lot of people in China. They're getting worked to death constantly. They're not even able to go home. Like, yeah, I clearly don't think so. For a lot of people, China's extremely capitalist. Well, what would you give an example? Like, give me an example of a culture that's not capitalist, and why is it not capitalist? Yeah, why is it not capitalist? Let's see here. There's no non-capitalist culture. That's the pain. Yeah, I don't understand this. There's no successful non-capitalist country. I don't know. I mean, people say North Korea. Okay. That's it. All right. Yeah, I'm sure things are going great over there. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how the Scandinavian countries do things. I think they exist in a free market, and I think that you can have a free market while having social programs that create a social safety net. Like that's basically my viewpoint on things, is that you should probably have a free market where people can buy and sell and trade with pretty much complete freedom, while at the same time there is a social safety net. Is that capitalism? Is it socialism? No, it's neither. It's both. There's a lot of good things about a free market. I think the truth is that if you look at like the people's lives back maybe 100 years ago, because we had capitalism, by the way, we had capitalism in the 1930s. It's not like we didn't, bro. Like it's called the Gilded Age. It was so bad. Maybe that was actually a bit before then, but point's still the same. It's like this is, there's been this stuff for years. It's always been like this in the U.S. So like looking at the last 100 years and then saying, well, because these are bad, the last 50 years, well, these are bad, then capitalism is bad. I don't really think that's accurate, because capitalism's been around for hundreds of years now. So, I mean, I think that it's a very reductive way of looking at things to just get rid of capitalism, Because what does that mean? How does that make sense? Like, what is, like, whenever you say get rid of capitalism, what do you really mean by that? And I think that these terminologies and this language is very useless. Let's see here. And, bro, he talks about it in the video. What did he talk about? Yeah, what was the... What did he talk? Like, I feel like there wasn't really a lot of solutions here. Child labor's bad. I mean, yeah, sure. But that's not going to solve the problem. Yeah, I don't think that's going to do anything. I didn't talk about any actionable solutions or policies. Yeah, I mean, again, I think that there are a lot of people, and this is, I think, one of the ways that people like this shoot themselves in the foot, is that they don't really work towards, like, you can make an argument like what he's making, but whenever you don't really provide an alternative solution, it's not really very substantive. There's not really a lot of substance to it, I would say.
All these channels, the best possible way you can do that is by signing up for Nebula with the link below.
Yeah.
Nebula is home to content from all your favorite creators, and it's a place where we can experiment and produce the content we really want to make, without the fear of age restriction or demonetization. If you've ever listened to the deprogram, you understand why it's always demonetized. That's why I'm so glad we have Nebula. We can be honest, we can have fun, we can produce content for people to enjoy without having to choose our words carefully to avoid age restriction or demonetization. And now, if you sign up with my link, you'll also get access to the new Nebula classes, where creators host classes on how to be a creator. There's something for everyone. And it's another way for you to take a peek behind the scenes and see what really goes into making content.
Camera.
Your favorite creators teaching you how to create. In my opinion, that's pretty cool. Here's the heartfelt part. Every person who signs up using my link is directly contributing to the financial stability of this operation. That second thought, the deprogram, and first thought. None of this would be possible without the generosity of viewers like you, especially since pretty much all my sponsors have bailed. And it doesn't take a huge investment to keep the lights on.
I think that's disappointing. While I'm definitely a capitalism enjoyer, I support this guy, and like if he wants to have another outlook on things, I totally support that. I think that's okay. It sucks that sponsors pussy out on that stuff. I mean, he's not a bad guy. This isn't a bad dude. He's not trying to hurt somebody here. He's just talking about what he believes in. There's nothing wrong. It sucks.
If you sign up using the link below, you'll get access to Nebula and Nebula classes for under $3 a month. With my link, the annual plan is just $30 a year, or $2.50 a month. I honestly think that's an amazing deal for all the great content on Nebula. So if you'd like to help support my work and get access to the streaming platform built and owned by the creators, sign up for Nebula using my link below. It really does help support me and educational...
Nebula is creator-owned? I don't know anything about this. Whenever I hear a buzzword like that... Look, my mom told me when I was 5 years old that Jonah lived in a fish in the Bible. I said, no, there's no way he could live in a fish. How could he breathe? I am an extremely skeptical person. Anytime I hear anything, I'm like, nah, there's no way. So I don't know if I believe that.
Creators all across YouTube. If you enjoyed this video, consider dropping a like. If you hated it, a thumbs down. You can watch my other content by following the links on your screen. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Yep, there you go. Let's see here. It used to be an actual good platform. People like Wendover and Real Life War are big there. Well, good for them. Let's see here. I'll read a few comments about this. I know people are probably pretty opinionated about it, but yeah, let's talk about it for a few minutes. Did you watch Crash Me Out? Says capitalism is bad, then runs ads. Well, you have to. I mean, the truth is that, like, like, for example, can you actively protest climate change while at the same time not participating in it yourself? You don't drive cars, you don't use airplanes, you don't do anything, right? I think that expecting a person, I said this a million times, expecting the person to live according to their ideals whenever they don't have to is always a mistake if living according to other ideals is better for them circumstantially. I am very much a realist with this kind of stuff. I don't think this devalues what people are saying, because I don't really take what they're saying to be some ideological position in the first place. It's not that, yeah, there's activists, many people are activists until they have the opportunity to do otherwise. It's not that big of a surprise. It doesn't really upset me. Problem is in capitalism, it's unchecked capitalism. Yeah, any unchecked system will never work. I think so too. I agree with that. I don't think that capitalism is really a problem here. I think that if you go and, you look at systems and the way of life back before capitalism, I think that you'll see some inequality. Like, massive inequality. Like a crazy, fucking insane level of inequality. So, yeah, serfdom was great. Yeah, well, I hope you like it. It's coming back very soon. Let's see here. My honest opinion, arguing with this capitalism or any isms is a fucking loop. There's no system that will work for everyone. Exactly. So, yeah, I think that the truth is that, free markets, I think they're great. Also, as I said, the first thing that people who are in free markets do is they make them not free. That's the first thing they fucking do. Because if it's a free market, then other people can compete with you. So you want to immediately fucking shut them down, and then it's a free market because you're free to make as much money as you want. That's what you really meant by free market, right? I mean, come on. So yeah, capitalism alive for lives. It's comfortable enough to spend all your time complaining about it. Well, I think that if, as I said, I think that the inevitable conclusion to society is that most people will not work. And, I don't know, people can live as like slaves, they get paid to exist, government can kill them. I don't know what's going to happen. But either way, the way that we're living now is the days of this lifestyle are numbered. And too few people realize that. No, I'm not kidding. I'm not kidding, guys. I think it's going to happen. I might sound like a crazy person, but, I think time will prove me right, but I guess we'll just have to find out. Yeah, that's about it. Funny how no one mentions an alternative, only that capitalism is bad. Well, I think that, again, like, thinking about ideals is nice, but, actionable behavior is more important. Not enough regulation. What? There's too much regulation? Well, it's both. So there's a lot of regulation. So what regulation is used for, large companies push for oppressive regulation to pull the ladder up on emerging companies in the same business, so it's harder for those companies to compete with them. While at the same time, there are not enough regulatory fucking, tools to stop these other companies from doing things that save money. So both things are true. Sorry to say. Thinking politics, talk about throwing rocks. Is this upsetting you? It's too bad. Yeah, doesn't have a good plan for an entire upheaval of an economic system? Well, I'm not expecting a 20-minute YouTube to have a good plan for an entire upheaval of an economic system, but you can't just say something's bad and then be like, well, this is... Like, here's me as a skeptical, I consider myself a rational person. I hear capitalism is bad, and I think about before there was capitalism, and I think about what I know about history, and I think to myself, man, that sounds a lot worse than what we have now. So that's the way my brain works. So yeah, I mean, sure, if somebody's got another idea, that's great, but like, this seems like pretty much the best one we've got so far.